Welcome back to English Hub. Today we are here with the famous personality Robert Frost, an iconic American poet whose simple words hide deep meaning. Let us know about the poet Robert Lee Frost. He was born on 26 March 1874 in San Francisco, California, and he died in January 29, 1963, Boston. Though Frost lived in 20th century, he wrote mostly in traditional verse forms and used colloquial American language. Colloquial means not formal, informal kind of a language. He captured complex philosophical and social themes using rural settings and natural imagery. Now let us see some themes which Frost has used in his poetry. Robert Frost poetry looks very simple on the surface but explores deep human experience. He wrote from nature to rural life, individual choices and free will, isolation and loneliness. He also wrote about work, duty, and responsibility, about the barriers and the boundary in human relation, escapism and reality, escapism versus reality. Frost has written about nature and rural life. Frost's New England landscape to reflect the beauty, challenges, and isolation in life. Nature is symbolic to him and not just decorative. His poems also reflect on individual choices and free will. The best example of this is The Road Not Taken, which represents life's decision and their consequences. His poetry also has isolation and loneliness. His poems often depict solitary figure interacting with nature, representing human isolation. His poetry also showed work, duty, responsibility. His famous poem, Stopping by the Woods, emphasizes duty and perseverance. Barriers and boundaries in human relations are also seen in his poetry. The best example is Mending Walls, where questions unnecessary divisions between people. Escapism versus reality can be seen in Breach's blends fantasy with life's hard truth. So, these are some of the themes which we can observe in Robert Frost poetry. Now, let us see some of the important poems and explanation about those. A short explanation. The first and the very best and most inspiring poem is The Road Not Taken, which symbolizes about the life choices, about the decisions which human make, about the regrets also, which can be there, can be as a consequences in one's life. The poem tells us that you cannot go back and select the another choice. You have to move in the same direction after selecting one. You cannot regret. The tone of the poem is reflective and thoughtful. Some of the famous lines are I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Another famous poem is Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, which shows the conflicts between beauty of nature and duty of life. The famous line of the poem is, But I have promise to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. Mending Wall is another one of the famous poem about questions human needs for boundaries and separation. A famous line of the poem is good fences make good neighbors. Breaches tells us Breaches uses childhood memory and nature to escape the harshness of adult life. That how beautiful our childhood was. But as we grow and move into adulthood, the life changes. It represents the desire to return to innocence, to return back to the childhood. Another poem is Fire and Ice, a short poem about destructive power of desire and hatred, about how the desires and hatred of human can lead to the end of world. Often asked in exam for its allegorical nature. He won many awards, and one of the biggest award he won was Pulitzer Prize. Not only once but four times he won Pulitzer Prize. In the year 1924, 1931, 1937, 1943. He is the only poet who has won the Pulitzer Prize four times. He also won Congressional Gold Medal in the year 1960. He even recited at President Kennedy's inauguration his famous poem The Gift outright. Now, before ending this short video, let us just once again recall Robert Frost is actually a nature and philosophical poet. Often uses blank verse and iambic pentameter, but with a natural conversational tone. He is the only poet who has won Pulitzer Prize for four times. The famous poems The Road Not Taken match the line of the poem. The famous poem Road Not Taken, based on the theme of life choices, the choices and the decision. Robert Frost help us reflect on life, not with complex words, but with the clear and relatable images. Here are some question and answers based on Frost's life. Here is the first question. When and where was Frost born? He was born on March 26, 1874 in San Francisco, California, USA. In which year did Frost win his first Pulitzer Prize for poetry? In 1923 for his collection New Hemisphere. Which two countries influenced Frost's poetic career? United States and England, because he gained the fame in England before in America. What tragic event shaped Frost's earlier life and poetry? When he was 11 years old, his father passed away, and this was the tragic event that shaped Frost's earlier life and poetry. What profession did Frost pursue before becoming a full-time poet? He was a farmer and a teacher. How many Pulitzer Prize he won? Four Pulitzer Prize he won. Which president's inauguration featured Robert Frost reading a poem? John F. Kennedy in the year 1961. Which poem did Frost intended to read at the inauguration, but instead reciting another due to sunlight? He recited the gift outright, but he planned for dedication. Where did Frost spend the later years of his life teaching and writing? Middlebury College and Amherst College. When did Frost died? January 29, 1963 in Boston, Massachusetts. Now here are 10 questions based on Frost work. So the first one is, what is the main theme in Frost poem The Road Not Taken? That is choices and consequences in life. Next one, which Frost poem ends with the famous line, and miles to go before I sleep? This line is taken from the poem Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening. Next question, what is the symbolic meaning of fire and ice in Frost poem Fire and Ice? In this poem, fire represents desire and ice represent hatred. Next question, in which poem does Frost discuss the idea of good fences makes good neighbors? This is from his famous poem Mending Walls. What poetic form does Frost often uses despite being a modern poet? He often uses the traditional form like blank verses and iambic pentameter. Which collection includes the poem Breaches? It is from the collection Mountain Interval 1916. Which poem by Frost depicts a hired man returning to a farm to die in peace? The Death of the Hired Man. Which poem contains philosophical collection using swinging breeches? Breaches is the poem. How does Frost view to nature differ from that of the romantic? Frost's nature is realistic, often indifferent or symbolic, not idealized. And the last question is, what is the tone commonly found in Frost poem? The tones commonly found in Frost poem are reflective, philosophical, and sometimes melancholic, and with ruler simplicity. So these are 20 questions based on Frost's life and his work. For more literature lesson like this, subscribe to English Hub, like and share this video, and don't forget, get preparation begins with a strong basis.